Thank you so much for joining in. I'm Oscar Blue for Real America's Voice News and different networks. How's everybody doing? It is 6:20. Yes, I think it is 6:20. Yeah, 6:20 in the evening over here, West Coast time. Today, Sunday, doing a show for you guys, specifically talking about two topics. The topics that I will be talking about is immigration and the situation is south of the border in Mexico, the lies of the president of Mexico to the American authorities. Ultimately, the situation in Mexico, it is not what she's saying. It is a whole different scenario, which the United States needs to be aware of the consequences that it might happen if, in some way, the Democratic Party takes over, and in particular, if basically a progressive liberal president or a globalist president, let me just say it like that, a globalist president takes over the country of the United States. This is a ticking bomb, and it can drastically change immediately. It can drastically change into a worse migration that you saw under the Biden administration. Why am I going to say this? It's really easy. But before we move on, first and foremost, I would like to ask to my audience, I'm testing these new microphones, and I would like to know if the audio sounds crisp, sounds clean, and sounds like the audio it is not echoing in some way. So I will appreciate if you guys can tell me if the audio sounds good, if the audio sounds okay. If you guys can comment on the comment section, I will greatly appreciate it. Also, buy me a coffee. It is right there in the chat. If you guys like to contribute to my independent reporting and travel fund, buy me a coffee. It's right there. We're going to be traveling soon, and we are going to be traveling again. First, we have a couple of medical exams that we have to take care of. We have a little problem with one of my left lung. But we're trying to see what's going on and what is the detail with that. I've been getting kind of sick consistently as we have been moving on trips consistently. Let's get right into it. It is going to be the news that is going to break tomorrow on Real America's Voice News. Be sure to be watching really early in the morning. We're going to be in multiple hits with the network. Another caravan, it is going to leave the south of the border. What is going on? Another caravan. Not too long ago, the president of Mexico told Kristi Noem that she has returned more than 500,000 migrants to their country. And here we are. The lies are just exposing the Mexican president for what she is. She's a complete liar. She said to Kristi Noem, we are returning more than 500,000 migrants into their countries. Why there is going to be a caravan 2 days from now, on Tuesday, there will be another caravan of around 1,500 to 2,000 migrants leaving the south of the border with the activists, which we interviewed. And the activist himself, Luis Villagran, has told us that under all of his caravans, he has possibly moved close to 300,000 people out of the state of Chiapas in direction to the United States of America. Amazing. We did this interview not too long ago, and we were, sounding the alarm to the American authorities. Meanwhile, other media are focused on the U.S. border, which is okay, reporting on the U.S. border. This is actually the news. This is the ticking bomb. Why is the ticking bomb? Why I say this? Because the activists told us there's more than 20,000 migrants assimilated and working south of the border in the south border states. More than 20,000. They're assimilated and they're working there because they don't have no other option, whether they can return back to their country or whether they can stay in Mexico. But they decided entirely to stay in Mexico and to wait for a possibility if nearby it is going to reopen again, or the CBP1 app will reopen again, or if there's going to be a possibility that the Senate or Congress in the United States of America will vote for, open asylum cases, whatever the situation may be, or if an NGO gets power to start expanding information to the whole continent and the world, then you can come into an open border gap. More than 20,000 on south of the border. Reports and speculations are talking about them close to 35 to 40,000 in the central parts of Mexico, the city of Mexico, surrounding Puebla, Querétaro, the central states, and hundreds of thousands. They are waiting at the north border that connects to the United States of America. This is a ticking bomb. All these people, they're assimilated, they're waiting, they're working, they're stationed in Mexico. They don't want to go nowhere. They want to stay here. And people in the United States are like, good. But we do not know what it will happen. And why am I saying this? The reason why I'm saying this, it is because OIM, the UNHCR, and the United Nations are still in place at the same places that they were all the 4 years under the Biden administration. They're stationed in the same place, and they're still being funded by American taxpayers. That is another topic that we will touch today. That is the humanitarian aid in Gaza. We talked about it when I was in Israel. I said to all of you guys, and there's a live about that. I said these NGOs, these international organizations, they're worthless humanitarians, that they're living out of a humanitarian crisis. And all the aid that is being hijacked by the United Nations with obstacles like Hamas and UNRWA working with Hamas to hijack the aid and sell the aid to Palestinians. The video is open. It is all over the place, and it is exposed. The reality just came out. You cannot hide this anymore. The problem, it is like always, the United Nations, it is the number one problem of all these humanitarian crises, of all these situations. Now, going back to the caravans, why are they making a caravan again? If they know that the north border with Mexico and the United States of America, it is closed, why they're making a caravan? Why in the hell they're making a caravan? And I said to all the journalists over there in the south of the border, why is he making it if he knows that they're not going across to the United States? And he's saying he just wants to get them to the central parts of Mexico. They want to get out. They don't have no job opportunities. They don't have this. Okay, but who is he protesting against? And you are going to be amazed. He's protesting against the Commission of Refugees, the UNHCR. All of the migrants that they are going to walk 2 days from now are going to walk not protesting against the government of Mexico. They are going to walk protesting against the Commission of Refugees, the UNHCR. It is amazing. And the most incredible thing, somebody saying they're coming in through Canada. They have been doing that for so many years. And the thing that is so incredibly amazing, it is that even the migrants, they're exposing now the international organizations, even the migrants themselves. Now they're exposing what the NGOs are doing to them. The migrants are entirely now knowingly adapting themselves to understand that the international organizations are the ones that they are using them for a political purpose and for ultimately, to suck on the teeth of this humanitarian crisis. Now, this happened more than a month ago. I went to south of the border. I sat down with Luis Garcia Villagran, that is the activist who basically it is making this caravan again. I have walked with him possibly 10 caravans. And this is what he told us. about Tren de Aragua, the most violent gang that has entered the United States of America, and who made these caravans before Donald Trump went into office. How, the Tren de Aragua and all these violent criminal groups from South America, how they have infiltrated the government of Mexico and how they have infiltrated the security of the country, which it is amazing now that they have the ability and the audacity to create caravans, not being from Mexico, being from South America. This is our interview, and I will place a video also. Yesterday, he gave out explanations of why he is sending and why he is starting a new caravan to protest against the Commission of Refugees and to basically tell the Commission of Refugees, no, you are only abusing this system. It is amazing. The migrants now protesting against the Commission of Refugees, the UNHCR. Wow. You never thought that this would happen. You will think, oh, they will protest against the Institute of National Immigration. They will protest against the corrupt government of Mexico. They will protest against the Trump policies. Okay. They will protest against because they're not letting them cross through irregular pathways. Okay, understood. But now they're protesting against the Commission of Refugees. Now the migrants are understanding that these international organizations, they're worthless humanitarians. They're fake humanitarians. And they're only sucking the teeth of this humanitarian crisis. This is the interview that I did with the leader of the caravans like a month ago. Listen to this.
In all the caravans, it has been a very specific topic that I have never asked you. Many people have infiltrated you, and they have forced and threatened you as well. That if you do not let me walk, something could happen to you. Could you explain a little bit about that? Indeed.
In all the groups we have walked with, there have always been infiltrators. But recently, when the great Venezuelan exodus occurred, especially when there was an overflow of more than 300% of Venezuelans who arrived at this part of the southern border. That movement, one of the best organized movements, I believe, in the history of the southern border. What happened? The federal government attended to us. It happened that in 4 days, they gave us 8,800 multiple immigration forms, and that people arrived almost immediately in the United States, and specifically in New York.
Immediately. Are you saying that possibly, potentially, 8,000 and a fraction of people were from the Tren de Aragua? I almost consider it that way.
Now, after some time, I can tell you that I was used. I was used by these movements.
Caravans are starting to appear non-stop. I think I see one after another, after another, after another. And you mentioned to me that it seems these people started to organize themselves. Many of these caravans were from the Aragua train.
These caravans were like this. I have them fully documented. 15 since the first day of October, and they occurred almost every 15 days until the 20th of January. 15 caravans. They were announced on social media. I still have them. They organized through Facebook. They continue to organize through Facebook. They were from the Aragua train. Outrightly. I dealt with them directly here in the Bicentennial Park. What did they do? First, they used social media, calling people from one day to the next. They did not give any option for them to gather, to say this must be done. This other thing must be done. And it was the same group that did not appear, those who truly organized this movement of caravan. These caravans were used by the Aragua train and the government for to decompress Tapachula and to move elements of the Aragua train. Meanwhile, on those same nights, here in Tapachula, the hotels were full of Ukrainians, Russians, Uzbeks, Chinese, with money, who brought them the water train.
The Aragua train was responsible for the strongest traffic, which involved exotic migrants, one could say. That is how it is.
Rich migrants and the
Or, the United States is prone at this moment due to all the people who entered, possibly vulnerable individuals and undesirable persons. Is it going to be difficult for them to remove the undesirable individuals? Yes.
Yes, because there are interests. There are many interests. Who benefits? You know there are two power groups in the United States. You know it perfectly.
In 4 years of Trump, do you think he could manage to remove all these people from the Aragua train?
I doubt it very much. I doubt it very much.
So this it's somebody this was the activist. There is a comment, and I would like to educate this comment. It says, Debbie, your comment says, this doesn't sound like a real person. To me, it sounds like a computer voice. The interview was done in Spanish. So that is an application that we use for to be a translator and for you to understand the video translated to your language, that is English. The Caravan Leader only speaks Spanish, and my first language is Spanish. It is not, English. So this is the activist talking about how many infiltrated Tren de Aragua. Now, he's making another caravan tomorrow, and it is going to be against protesting the Commission of Refugees, which for me, it is completely amazing. It's unbelievable that the migrants now, they're protesting against the Commission of Refugees. This was just recent video in the Bicentenario Park. This is exactly the park that I have been multiple times. I was just there not too long ago with Ryan Mata, documenting ultimately the migrants that they got stuck because of the cancellation of CBP1, that it was, according to the past director of migrants in Tijuana, was close to 1 million petitions that they got stuck because of the cancellation of CBP1 on the first day of the Trump administration. This is him speaking about this current caravan that he's organizing. Let me translate, pause, and translate as he's speaking so I can basically tell you what are his purposes and why is he making
García Villagrán del Centro de Dignificación Humana.
Otra vez se reactivó las caravanas, Luis.
Los éxodos, las caravanas las hizo Garduño y Fara Gertrudis. Los últimos 15 nosotros en lo que participamos fue en el éxodo de la pobreza el 24 de diciembre de 2023.
These are not caravans, they're exodus, he's basically saying. And, this is basically, he's explaining that these are not caravans. And the caravans are basically what he's saying. The caravans are organized by the same government. What I do are exodus of people. There's a comment right here saying, it will be nice if leave the little no or any other way to listen your interview in the original language, link, or any other way. There is a platform that I have them in Spanish. And I did that basically because I was posting for the American audience for them to understand what he was saying in English. If you guys want to go and see the original version, I will be posting that later on. And it's already posted on my YouTube channel. So go and do your, go and search it over there. Let me continue with the translation of the next caravan of the director of Dignification for Migrants and the activist Luis Villagrán.
Hoy nuevamente este 6 de agosto del 2025 a las 5:55 de la mañana vamos a salir con un éxodo por la justicia.
The 5th of August, we are going to start a new caravan, and it is going to be named the Exodus of Justice.
Se le ha denominado, ¿por qué? Mucha corrupción en Comar, mucha corrupción y dilación.
Why we're making this caravan? A lot of corruption in Comar. Comar is the Commission of Refugees. Wow. a lot of corruption in Comara. That is what he's saying.
que han formado un nudo humano aquí en Tapachula,
They have completely created a bottleneck right here in Tapachula.
en detrimento primero de los migrantes y segunda en detrimento de nosotros los tapachultecos.
And it is affecting not only the migrants, but also the Tapachula people.
Por eso le estamos diciendo a toda la población migrante que vámonos caminando desde Tapachula y a la Ciudad de México. No
That's why we are asking the migrant population, let's keep on walking and let's continue to walk from Tapachula all the way to City of Mexico.
es la intención llegar a Estados Unidos.
And there's no intention to arrive all the way to the United States. This is really important for people to let me just let him say it for you to adjust yourself, for people that are bilingual, to understand that I'm actually trying to translate this situation. He's actually saying to get the migrants out of Tapachula to the City of Mexico, to get them to a better place so they can get a better job. But also, he adds, and he's really, emphatic of saying this, he's saying this caravan or this exodus or this group of migrants that they're about to move on the 5th of August, there's no intention of them going to Mexico, to go into the United States. It is really important, this. So the most important thing about this that I see, it is the lies of the Mexican president to Kristi Noem and to the current administration, saying that Mexican president said that she returned more than 500,000 migrants into their countries, and still caravans are in the south of the border. Still, there's a huge bottleneck of people in the south of the border that is more than 20,000, according to him. There's 30 to 40,000 in City of Mexico. There's thousands in the borders with Mexico and the United States. Who's lying here and who's not saying the truth? Obviously, it is being exposed by movements of caravans in the south of the border. Let me just repeat this video so you guys can get it.
Toda la población migrante que vámonos caminando desde Tapachula y a la Ciudad de México. No es la intención llegar a Estados Unidos.
Todos los integrantes de esta caravana, Luis, ¿cuál?
There's no intention to go to the United States. The reporter, Manuel de Jesus, asks all the people that they are involved in this caravan, and then he goes,
¿Cuál es su motivo? ¿Por qué se...
Todos tienen su constancia de la condición de refugiado de Comar. Por lo tanto, tenemos libre tránsito legal por toda la geografía chiapaneca.
Every single migrant has a permit from the Commission of Refugees to walk freely in the whole city, in the whole state of Chiapas. The problem has been that the authorities are not respecting this permit, and they're not letting the migrants walk out of Tapachula. The intention, they want to keep them in the south, and they want to keep them in the City of Mexico in the south, so it will not cause more groups to be moving forward into the central parts of the city. And that way, it is the blockade for migrants to get to the northern border states that connect to the United States of America. And in some way, that is the possible petition of the Trump administration to decrease the flow all the way from the south of the border into the north of the border. And according to the activists, it is a violation of the human right of this agreement of the Commission of Refugees. So let me get this straight. So the Commission of Refugees, that is a commission that defends refugees, and it is a commission that defends the human rights of refugees. It is actually violating the rights of refugees. Wow. It's unbelievable. And he's talking about that there's a lot of corruption inside of this organization. It is incredible what he's saying in his statements, because if he's saying that the Commission of Refugees, it is not letting them, or the authorities are in cahoots, not letting them walk outside of the state of Chiapas. So the Commission of Refugees, it is corrupt, and it is not letting the migrants exercise their human right to move forward from one state to another. So these international organizations, they're making millions of pesos by keeping the migrants inside of the border and living out of this humanitarian crisis with federal funds.
Hay que recordar que la Comar es una dependencia federal que avala al migrante de estar de una forma regular aquí en Chiapas.
Let's remind that the Commission of Refugees, it is a federal entity that it is to defend the migrants right here in Chiapas.
Cuando abandonan el lugar se pierde, pero estamos en Chiapas todavía. Vamos a Arriaga primeramente como primer paso, y hay que decirlo, pues todos aquí tienen 1 año, 2 años, hombre, aquí en Tapachula. El más barato tiene 8 meses, firmando y firmando, siendo rechazado, iniciando otra vez trámite. La llegada de Carmen Yadira ha vuelto el caos de corrupción.
He's saying that a lot of the migrants have been signing the petition of Commission of Refugees so they can leave and be approved so they can leave the south border city of Tapachula. 8 months to 2 years. There's people that they have been there waiting their process to do it legally and mechanically to all the canals of the immigration process, and they have been denied. So this is nothing that I'm surprised. I have been speaking about this for so many years. I've been walking caravans since 2019. It's been 6 years of me walking caravans. And this for me is not a surprise. I have seen how these international organizations, they are just basically so corrupt, and they are completely corrupt. They're completely corrupt. And this is one of the things that I will like to inform. This is a report that I did in Guatemala. This is just crossing from just steps away from the open border between Mexico and Guatemala, which tells you that these international organizations, they're still active, and they know that there's a migrant flow coming in consistently through south of the border states. They know that they can actually be living and sucking the teeth out of this human crisis without fixing it. And they know specifically that in one point or another, it is going to basically be a ticking bomb and explode. And if a Democrat president comes into office, this will be, it will reactivate immediately. Not only that, it's amazing that they're still active, that they're still being funded, not only in Guatemala, not only in Mexico, not only in South America, but also I will show you a report how they were still funded by this humanitarian crisis that there was just rediscovered again in Gaza with the humanitarian aid. This organizations of UNDOF sucking the teeth of this humanitarian crisis in Syria, sucking the teeth of the American taxpayer, getting more than 20 million per year. And it is amazing that they're still funding this. They're still funding this. Let me just put this video on so you guys can understand why am I referencing that these international organizations, they are basically going to be reactivated. They are still active. There is a comment right here I would like to read. It says, I'm very disappointed Trump hasn't retaken control of the Panama Canal by force. No way that it was going to happen that. I'm sorry, there was never a possibility that that was going to happen. That it is from the Panamanians. It belongs to the Panamanians. And what they did was that they basically took control of the two gates where the Chinese, basically Chinese companies and the Chinese had control of it. So they arranged that, but there was no way, there was not a possibility that that was going to happen. And I said it so many times when that started happening. I said, it's not going to happen. And a lot of people got upset with me. They were like, how dare you? We're going to take it back. It's ours. We're going to do this. Go ahead and try. It is not going to happen. It is not because you can't, and it is not because by force. What do you mean by force? War? It's in Trump supposed to be a president that is not for wars? Isn't, the United States of America trying to stay away from wars? This was never going to happen. And it didn't happen. And I don't believe that it will happen. The only thing that I think the only possibility that I think with the canal situation that it could happen, it is that they can be basically controlling the two gates of importation and exportation and the vessels coming in of the massive entrance of basically, all the commerce that is internationally coming in through this. So this is in Guatemala, the international organizations still active. And when I approached this lady, because I'm outside of OIM, this is the head of the snake. They live like kings and queens in Panama also. But this right here, I asked the lady, she immediately comes out and says, you can't record. I'm like, I'm in the street. I can't record on the street. She was really in a bad mood. like all the time, they get upset because you're outside, you're recording them, and they want to own the property. It's the attitude of these international organizations. It is exactly what is happening in Gaza, what happened in the Darien Gap, what happened in caravans. It is that they want to own the territory. They want to be the ones that they call the shots. They want to be the ones that they say the process, how it's done. I'm the authority. And they're willing to go beyond violating constitutions, violating laws because of the human rights. Look what I ask her immediately. And I say to her before I start speaking English, I say, there's no way that you can tell me if you have unaccompanied minors. We cannot give you that information. Why they don't want to say if they have unaccompanied minors, or they do. I know that it's a delicate situation, it's a sensitive situation, but it's just every time the UNHCR and OIM, you talk to them about the unaccompanied minors, and they get extremely triggered to speak about just a word. And this is the OIM station in Guatemala. Check this report. I have put it before, but look at this report. This is what I'm saying, that this caravan that is starting in a couple of days, it is around 1,000 to 1,500 people. People that are going to protest against the Commission of Refugees that is hand in hand with the United Nations or hand in hand with the international human rights. And the migrants are basically waking up to the current situations that are happening and towards them, because they say, well, these international organizations, they are here to help us. They're not here to complicate more the situation it already is. Listen to this.
Buenas. ¿Qué tal? Bueno, soy periodista, vengo nomás a grabarla fuera de las instalaciones.
No tenemos permitido la grabación.
En la calle, así es que pues, sí, nomás,
Okay,
sí, no me voy a meter, así es que no. Y hablar con ustedes no creo que se pueda, ¿verdad?
No.
Bueno, ok. Bueno, muchísimas gracias.
Igualmente.
¿Tiene niños no acompañados ahorita aquí adentro?
No podemos dar esa información.
Bueno, muy bien.
Bueno.
Entonces grabo aquí en la calle. Muchísimas gracias.
Before I move on, I'm really polite. Hi, how you doing? You don't have permission to be recording. I said, I'm on the street, I can't record. So there's no possibility for me to talk to you guys. No, there's not. They're extremely arrogant. And I said, you don't have no unaccompanied minors. And she said, I cannot give you that information. Well, I already know your process, so I'm gonna record outside in the street. They get extremely upset. They close the door. They start calling police. Police is not gonna do anything but just come and say, what are you doing? I'm recording from outside. You cannot do anything. It's the street. You cannot stop me from recording on the street. What I wanted to show is that how these international organizations, how much money in millions of dollars they made under the Biden border crisis, and they still have money to be active. Why they're still active in Guatemala, and why they're still, signalizing that still move north. Why? Immigration is always going to exist. You're always going to the migrant, it is always going to move from one side to another. We understand that. But why there is no education to our people to how to do it correctly, and why you're steps away from the open border gap, crossing the Suchate River, where they are not even checking for documents, and it is controlled by the cartel, as exactly where the Darien Gap, Necoclí, you were right there, the United Nations stationed there, OIM stationed there, just steps away from a 2-hour boat ride, entering the jungle where you were there also before the cartel had all the control of the entrances to Acandí, Turbo, Capurganá. You guide them with maps and you told them how to get to point A to point B. And when they exit the Darien Gap, you were there pandering. I'm here, give you ibuprofen, give you water, give you food. You know how to suck the teeth of a humanitarian crisis, and you're strategically put specifically geographically on places where you know that is going to be a necessity. And this is what you do. Still, the United States, I believe that they're still fine.
Like you guys have seen, always OIM doesn't want to talk to nobody, doesn't want to talk to journalists. And specifically, They just told us that we cannot record. And I immediately said, I'm on the street, I can record. And she said, okay, go ahead and record. So it's the same narrative, continuously, same narrative of what OIM it is doing right here in Guatemala, steps away from the border of Mexico and also Guatemala. So let me just tell you what they're doing still here. And they have an office here. So if you go right here, they have a kit for you and your family, just as they had a rape kit in the parts of Necoclí. Over here, they have an accessory kit. So they have a kit for here for your family to cover your necessities and hygiene, hydration, and also water for comfort. Then they offer also information over the risk of an irregular migration through irregular pathways, also medical attention, also psychological attention, also a thing that it is for everybody that is paying in the American taxpayer. This is legal assistance. Also, they give you legal assistance. What kind of legal assistance? Well, how to cross from one country to another, and basically practically advising you how to do it basically to the United States. Assistance of how to come back also, how to tell you to come back to your country, reference in different institutions and services, and also labor, how to support you if you want to find a job. So this is OIM. This is the number one reason why we came down here to tell you that international organizations, they are still present and widely open and operating inside of the border of Guatemala. Where are they getting their money and where are they getting the funding? If it is USAID already closed, if they are not getting funding by the United States of America, that is the number one country that funds OIM, UNHCR, and the United Nations, how are they sustaining their economy and how they're sustaining this particular place? Not too far away from here, it is a shelter right here, just half a block from here. This shelter, and they just closed the door. Look, they just closed the door on us because we're recording over here. So they possibly heard what I'm saying. The majority of the people over here speak English, so possibly they do not want to hear me speak. So not too far away from here, half a block from here, there is a shelter. That shelter was massively operating when the mass migration started happening with open borders. So they offer also to protect from COVID, also masks, all the things that you need to protect yourself from COVID. Now, COVID doesn't exist anymore, but still they are practically telling the migrants to how to avoid COVID. And, you know, ultimately they already have their establishment right here. And if you come down here a little bit, it says right here, OIM, and the top says right here, if you're a migrant, go ahead, come in. Refugee migrants, they have a specific, number that you can call right here. Takes the Google Maps, and it will take you to the location where you can get attention. So this specifically, I don't have a signal right now. I don't have service, but it actually can tell you that it's actually working, like if it was CBP1. Also, humanitarian assistance, whatever you need. There's humanitarian kits to cover your urgent necessities. This is exactly the same thing: psychological support, medical attention, and also assistance. By the way, on top, you will see the three organizations that they're part of this globalist compact of immigration, and they're part of this mass migration: UNHCR, OIM, and UNICEF. The border remains open. They're just tactically waiting in case the 2028 election, it is led to one of the leaders from the United States of America to say the border is going to be open or they're going back to CBP1. This will be completely operating again. And like always, OIM and the UNHCR and UNICEF, they do never want to talk. They don't want to speak. They don't want to say anything to nobody because practically they don't want nobody to know that they're still operating, they're still effective in the part of Guatemala.
So this is basically what I am referencing to. That if they are making a new caravan, protesting against international organizations, which they are not doing anything to help the immigration situation, which they have not done anything at all. You know, it basically tells you the level of corruption that possibly coexists in the south of the border with these international organizations. Again, there is going to be in 2 days a new caravan that it will leave, and the intentions of the migrants is not to go to the United States, it's to go to the central parts of Mexico, to stay there, to work there. Meanwhile, they will see if there's a possibility of reopening the north border that connects Mexico with the United States of America. This will tell you that the Mexican president, it is lying bluntly to the American authorities, telling them, oh, you know what? We have already returned more than 500,000. It is a lie. You have a huge bottleneck. And still, the UNHCR operates under the American taxpayer in Mexico also. This is us arriving to the UNHCR, which they closed the door on us also because they do not want to give interviews of how they are getting funded and if they are helping migrants or not. Clearly, they are not even fighting for the rights of the migrants inside of the border of Mexico, because in 2 days, there are going to be a caravan protesting against the Commission of Refugees. Check this video out.
We're located at the south of the border in Tapachula, where the offices of UNHCR, they're still operating. And the most incredible thing is that you see right here, UNHCR offices, the agent of the United Nations for Refugees, the premises and the location, that is extremely big. And thing that I want to show you right now as we are walking is that this used to be a specific location to help migrants and refugees. Now that so specifically, this is what they say, that USAID funding has been cut, that we don't know that for sure, actually. But ultimately, we know that this is the location where they're located. And that you see people that are coming out now from the administrative offices. This is not a place where they receive migrants anymore. This is administrative offices. So let's just walk over here so I can show you right here how their installations are located. First and foremost, quick observation. They have electrical wire on the top, which is weird. Why they are so self-protected if they are receiving migrants, nobody knows, just them. They just shut the door on us again, like they just did in Guatemala. OIM shut the door on us again. They just shut the door again. And, you know, everything is protected. They have cameras on top and they have cameras on the bottom. This is all the premises of the UNHCR and OIM. This is the door. The door, it is impossible to get in. It's extremely impossible to get in. And, you know, wanted to show you something. We live in a humanitarian crisis of immigrants. In the South, I have been inside of the Darien Gap, in places where the migrants live in critical and inhumane conditions. And as you can see, all these vehicles that you are seeing right here outside of these premises are from the administrative individuals that they work inside of the UNHCR, which they make you believe and they make you understand that they're helping in a humane way to the most vulnerable and the one that is suffering. Meanwhile, they are living a privileged life like kings and queens, like I have recorded and documented in the part of Panama, where they live in a beautiful compound in Clayton, Panama, but 3 hours away from Clayton, Panama, it is the epicenter and disaster that it was the Darien Gap. So particularly, you will see how it's all the premises. Let's walk all the way over here so you guys can see the mass location of the UNHCR in Tapachula. This looks like beautiful offices, as I can tell you. And, you know, it is, you know, it says that they have their parking, specifically also yellow line, that I don't know if this is permitted due to regulation in the government of Tapachula, that they can actually own the parking line, or they can own the side of the parking line. But this is what we came down here to tell you guys, and specifically to tell every single one of you guys, why these international organizations, if USAID was cut, why they're still operating and why they're still open. If USAID, the funding that has already been eliminated, what kind of funding they're living on? And if they're living on funding, it is because of all the billions of dollars that they suck under the Biden administration of this humanitarian crisis. They make billions of dollars out of it. And still they're operating, and still they have their fancy cars, and still they operate. Even they operate from 8 to 5, like it was job offices and administrative offices. They have shut down this particular location to make it a location just for administrative individuals, but not for individuals to be received and to be processed for refugee and asylum. So it is crazy how much they have grown. The security guard was really friendly when he started talking to us. He said, you know what are you guys doing over here? You guys are needing in something. Do you guys want to come in? I said, we already know that you're not going to let us in if we don't put an email. And they said, yes, we're not going to let you in. But what are you guys are going to record? I said, I'm just going to record from outside of the street. They cannot do anything towards us if we're recording outside of the street. But the same attitude that we received in OIM in Guatemala, the same attitude we're receiving right here. They don't want to talk to nobody that wants to question them. What are they doing, operating still, how they're making their living, where are all the missing children, how many children did they have processed, because they processed so many unaccompanied minors with UNICEF, and specifically they don't want to answer questions. The only way that they can answer the questions is you put an email, and if they want to accept that email in reference to which media you're coming, because the media outlet counts a lot if you are from their own source of media, and if you're not from their source of media that they can trust, they're not going to let you get close to them. So this is the UNHCR offices from Tapachula, Chiapas, still operating, still right here, effective, and still open from 8 to 5, America. You're still paying for this from 8 to 5. Your offices right here in the south border of Tapachula and also in Guatemala. Oscar Blue reporting from south of the border of Tapachula for all of you guys. Stay safe, and like we always say, God's plan, it is our mission.
So again, it's unbelievable now that this caravan that is about to leave in 2 days, they are protesting against the Commission of Refugees. Sorry about that. One of the most incredible things about that. Just recently, I was visiting again the Holy Land, and I went to Israel to document the situation in this, conflict between Iran and also Iran and Israel. Our whole purpose was to go over there and see the actual situation in Haifa, the situation in Tel Aviv, if it was real, that it was completely destroyed, and then the city of Haifa was completely malfunctioning, and Tel Aviv was completely shut down, which it was a complete obvious lie. We were there. There was no shutting down. There was no, basically cities that they were completely destroyed. There were some buildings that they were hit, but it was not destroyed. The city Haifa was still active. They had internet, they had electricity, they had water, they had everything. There's some reports that they say it was completely shut down. No, it was not shut down. I was there, I was walking, I even stayed in a really nice hippie hotel in the mountains that Chuck Holton, my mentor, took me to. We went through Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv was active, was normal. And also we went through, through the port of importation and exportation, the international port of the seaport. It is active also still. Everything was active. Everything was not what the media or the left media or some progressive mercenary media from the left was saying. Of course, we got there, and one of the concerns that I had, that we documented also, was the war that it was continuous, and the massacre that is occurring right now in Syria with the Druze community. We went to Makhdal Shams. We stayed there for the night. We studied what was going on with the Druze community. We went through Magdal Shams, a community that is 11 to 12,000 Druze that they were there. We saw we heard their opinions. We heard basically their statements of saying we need Israel to go and do more airstrikes. They were saying it. I was not saying it. But during the week, I talked to several people that they are pro-Palestine and several people that they are pro-Israel, right? The maneuver or two sides, it is a really complex, it is really difficult to talk to several people that are extremely passionate about pro-Palestine and some other people that are extremely passionate about pro-Israel. Of course, there is a crisis and there is a catastrophe happening in Gaza. We are not going to lie about that. There's a lot of innocent people dying. Yes, they are. There's a lot of people dying. Yes, they are. There is also soldiers that have been killed in Israel. Yes, they have. There is a situation with Israel in the border with Lebanon, with Hezbollah. Yes, there is. There is a situation in the borders with Syria. Yes, there is. There is a situation ultimately in the West Bank continuously because of the inspection points and the checkpoints and the people and terrorist attacks continuously in the cities. Yes, they are. We are. That is not a lie. It is not a complex lie. And the thing about it is that now the sad thing about it is that the political narrative, it is so shallow, it is so small that your heart does not give you the right authority to say, this is the truth. We've forgotten about that there's no left and there's no right when it comes to human life. We have forgotten that there's no Republican and there's no Democrat when it comes to human life. We have forgotten that there's no one side that is pro-Palestinian and the other side that is pro-Israel when we come to human life. And who are making a profit in sucking the teeth of this humanitarian crisis. I was there. Multiple reports were continuously saying that the aid in Gaza, it was being hijacked and taken over by Hamas. Everybody was saying, where are those reports coming in? I did a space. Progressive leftists came in and said, were you in Gaza? I said, I was not. I was half a kilometer away from there. Multiple people were coming in saying, this is what we saw. This is what the actual situation. We got reports from some other journalists that they have been close like we have, and also connections inside of the situation in Gaza. So everybody was telling us, this is what it is going on. The UN, UNRWA, it is corruptibly involved on distributing the aid. Everybody on the left went crazy. They're like, no, Israel is this, Israel is that. I'm not defending Israel by any chance. I'm trying to be as much as objective as I can be, because this is too much now. What it has been crazy this week is there's people now defending the United Nations. For God's sake, now you're defending George Soros? You're defending Alex Soros now? You gotta be kidding me. You're defending Antonio Gutierrez? That's where I have lost my mind. The narrative and the political narrative of this war, it is so narrow that you're willing to say even that the United Nations is right when they have created every humanitarian crisis. And I have documented a lot of them in the Darien Gap, manufactured for them to suck the teeth and live out of a human crisis. And they knew where the cartels were operating. They knew how the cartels were smuggling. They knew how much the cartel was charging. They knew how much the cartel was operating. They knew about the rape. They knew about the abuse. They knew about the stealing inside of the gap of migrants. They knew everything about that. And even knowing that they knew the United Nations, OIM, the UNHCR, all these NGOs, Doctors Without Borders, all these NGOs, they knew about it. Even they started attacking the government because they were saying the government is complicit, it's their fault. They're not doing enough. We need them to do more. So what they were doing is trying to control territory, knowing that bad groups and agitators were infiltrated and taking advantage of the migrants. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound familiar, people? Does it or does not sound familiar? It sounds extremely familiar of what is being speculated of the mode operandi now in Gaza. Exactly the same of how the United Nations were operating in the Darien Gap, in Guatemala, in Honduras, in Nicaragua, in the borders with Mexico and the United States. It is exactly the same. I have seen the United Nations in their state-of-the-art vehicles walking on a caravan, seeing a child barefoot, and they're inside of their automobiles with air conditioning, not doing anything for the most vulnerable. What makes you think in your right head and your right mind, leave all your feelings outside? Even in Jordan, when I was talking to Palestinians, they were telling us they're making a business inside of Gaza with the humanitarian aid. They're making money out of the food that is being delivered. Other people, they're really experienced on this topic. They will tell you, I just wrote an article. I just said this. I just went there. I read an article on Google, check on ChatGPT. I'm getting all my sources. You were not there. I was there. And I have been on that place 3 times. And these international organizations, it is a copy paste of their mode operandi. They do exactly the same. And what is UNRWA doing right now? They want to own the territory. They want to own who delivers the aid. They want to say, I'm the one that in charge to feed the people, not you. I don't want nobody else because I want more millions. I want to basically have control of this crisis. And it was exposed worldwide. The aid was just there, sitting down. Meanwhile, people are dying of hunger. And you can talk to me about the blockade in Egypt and Rafah and all this stuff. You're going to get into so many details to justify what the United Nations is doing. You're going to make so many justifications. Oh my God, your knowledge is this. Oh my God, you're such a, oh my God, you're not. Oh my God, nothing. The United Nations blocking the aid and blocking the feed and blocking the food. It is simple. It is not difficult for you to understand. This does not have a left. It doesn't have a right. It is not a right wing and it is not a left wing. It is not pro-Palestine from the river, or it is not pro-Israel. This is human lives. As I have said it multiple times before, in the Darien Gap, seeing people dying, seeing children being raped, seeing children being abused. And these international organizations making millions out of a human crisis and not fixing the problem, instead living out of it. And in Gaza, it looks like they don't care about the children. They don't care about the people feeding. They care about who is going to put the first Walmart in that place, for them to make a business and suck money out of it. It is exactly the same like UNDAF. UNDAF located just one step away from the border with Syria and Israel. Blue helmets. The United States of America, it is funding a camp in Syria of UNDAF $20 million per year. More than 1,200 soldiers, they are of UNDAF, Blue Helmet, United Nations soldiers, in that camp, that they're getting paid apparently between $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And their job is to basically make sure that the ceasefire between Syria and Israel, it is done. What just happened in Syria? Have you seen UNDAF going in there and trying to help the Druze community? Have you seen the UNDAF and the Blue Helmets going in there and fighting against to detain and stop this? There's a comment right here in Spanish. I would like to, puras incoherencias tuyas diciendo que México iba a ser el país comunista y nunca le creí nada. Y estamos contentos con el gobierno de la Cuarta Transformación. Saludos y abrazos, Oscar el Blue. Saludos para ti. ¿Qué pasó con la taxista y la maestra jubilada que acaba de asesinar el crimen organizado? ¿Cómo te va con eso? ¿Cómo va con los más de cientos de miles de laboratorios que fueron desmantelados por la actual administración, que fueron creados bajo la administración de Andrés Manuel López Obrador, y los más de 13,000 agitadores o arrestados que llevan, que fueron creados bajo Andrés Manuel López Obrador? Y ahora, ¿cómo va el narcogobierno? ¿Va todo bien? ¿Todo bien en casa, Rafita? So, UNDAF, it's more than $20 million per year of the American taxpayer. It is not a lie. It is not a lie. Here's the report that we did just steps away from this camp, and it tells you the reality of these international organizations. There's video now of trucks with Hamas, with the food in their trucks. This is not enough for people. And it is not enough for people to understand that this international organizations, they see people as logistics and numbers. They don't see people as human lives. They don't see human beings. They don't see saving a crisis from continuously happening. Check out this video.
For the American taxpayer, I'm located in the Golan Heights. Behind me, it is Syria. And the most shocking thing about it is that the American taxpayer, it is continuously complaining about the continuous funding to these international organizations and why they are paying to be continuously sucked into whatever international organization, United Nations, UNHCR, OIM, whatever you want to call it. Behind me, you are going to see something that is shocking. Behind me, you will see that in that land, in that piece of land, it is a UN station inside of Syria. Their job, and particularly their job, that they are sucking almost 60 million a year. Out of those 60 million, 20 million are coming from the American taxpayer. Their job is to protect the Syrians from Israel, basically violating the ceasefire between Israel and Syria. Look how ridiculous that is. So they're sucking in 20 million out of your American taxpayer money with this organization, UNDAF, that is an observer task force, whatever organization, and that ultimately their job is to prevent, apparently, from Israel toward taking over or from violating the ceasefire with Israel. Although Israel is already in 15 kilometers into Syrian territory, and you will have Hezbollah coming in, and you will have different agitator groups coming in and fighting off over here in the Golan Heights. Meanwhile, they stand over there, not doing nothing. That is a huge camp that you will see there. Huge camp that the American taxpayer, it is paying $20 million. These cynical, worthless, fake humanitarians, that they're sitting right there on this humongous camp, supposedly preventing that Israel will violate a ceasefire with Syria. This is what I'm talking about. This is where the seize of this international funds to these international organizations, which they live out of just a crisis, which they live out of just, a humanitarian crisis, which they live out of sucking the teeth of human misery, which they live out of creating chaos or something that it might happen so they can prevent. They have
more than 1,200 blue hats inside of that place. Majority coming from places like Ireland, places with Europe, places with different places. That place right there, that camp that you see, it is funded by you, American taxpayer. I'm located in the Golan Heights, a territory that it was fought over and that is still hot right here. The only attack that has happened on this territory was on this month of June, that it was a hot month between Iran, Israel, also activity still in Gaza. Also, there was activity in the Northern Galilee with Lebanon. A couple of missiles this week coming in from Yemen, from the Houthis, and also it was just registered one attack from Syria on June 3rd coming into this particular place. But through all of that, you will have all these fake humanitarians. Through all of this conflict of war, you will have all these fake humanitarians sucking the teeth and living out of human misery like all that they do in the middle of the Darien Gap, in borders, in places where they just sit and suck the teeth of the American taxpayer. That is you, America. You're paying for that humongous camp. Meanwhile, you have a huge problem with homeless veterans. You have a huge problem in California. You have a huge problem right now in Texas. You have problems that they have been happening with natural disasters. You have problems at your border. You have problems with Antifa right now, trying to fight them off because now these Antifa punks, they have dared to carry guns and shoot at police officers. Meanwhile, you're having all these gigantic problems. You will have these fake humanitarians sitting right there and on the other side of this border, not doing anything, just waiting to see if Israel will violate the ceasefire with Syria, although there's constant, activity right here. And the only activity that we saw in June was just one projectile by a Syrian agitator into Israel territory at this particular location. That tells you a lot about why the Trump administration needs to cancel all aid to international organizations. And let that point be across. If this is, it is kind of strange, because if the United States of America, it is an ally of Israel, why you're giving out money to a United Nations UNDOF, that is the name of this blue hat camp, that is their only job is to basically prevent from Israel violating the ceasefire. So what is the whole deal? It's just disgusting. All the money that these international organizations, they suck out of human misery. It is for you to open your eyes and understand what is happening. Oscar Blue in the Golan Heights, reporting for everybody near the border of Syria, just 1 kilometer, just less than 1 kilometer away from the border of Syria, reporting for you guys of the reality and truth of these international organizations, how they are living and sucking the teeth out of human misery around the world. Defund the United Nations. That's what it needs to be done. Before we move on to the last, place, we'll like to read a few words. This for the platforms that they are sensitive. This is not creating hysteria. It's not fear mongering. It is not a conspiracy theory. This program, it is not a white supremacist, a white imperialist. It is not xenophobic, transphobic, homophobic, pronoun-phobic, fatphobic. It is not racist, fascist, narcissist, bigot, Zionist. This program, it is not sensationalist. It is not alarmist, and it is not a progressive white supremacy. Just clearing anything out that it will come later on to justify the situation which is happening inside of these places like Gaza, that it is obvious that they were profiting out of this humanitarian crisis, of the aid that it was delivered into, places that they needed to be delivered. And ultimately, there's safe places and there are bad places. And now GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, has been the one that has been delivering. they were the ones that reported that UNRWA was falsely delivering food into several places and that UNRWA was in cahoots with Hamas, taking advantage of this humanitarian aid situation, which later on the United Nations immediately responded and said, those are false claims. We had 2 individuals which they were doing bad stuff. We already have, arranged that, but those are false claims. Even the United Nations responded to GHF and said, you're the one that is delivering aid to places where it's extremely dangerous. And under your delivery, more than 600 people have been hurt. And some of them have been, have been critically attacked, and some of them have died. So it is kind of like 2 international organizations fighting for who delivers food. Let me get this straight. So these international organizations are fighting to see who's in charge so they can get more money, so they can see how they can deliver the food whenever they want to, and the days that they want to, and the quantities that they want to. Man, it sounds like the Darien Gap. Man, it sounds like the Darien Gap. It sounds exactly what the UNHCR was doing in the Darien Gap. They're living like kings and queens in offices outside in the central parts of Panama in a beautiful place that is called Clayton. But 3 hours from there was the worst epicenter of migrants. The United Nations is exactly the same. The mode operandi of the United Nations, it is incredible. And it is exactly the same, a copy paste. And we have seen it in the whole continent of America, because I have traveled and get boots on the ground reporting from that place. Same paintings, same drawings, same message of people carrying backpacks and living out of human crisis. It's the same in the Middle East. The same, profiting out of human misery, profiting out of human crisis, profiting millions out of humanitarian aid, food to human beings. And still the fights continue in social media, who's right and who's wrong. When this is food, this is food, people. We're not supposed to be fighting for food. They're not supposed to be fighting for who delivers the food and who does not. This is not a business competition. This is not who puts the Walmart first and who gets more clients. This should be regulated. You're getting billions of dollars of this war, and still you're fighting to deliver the food or not. There is a process. There's there's multiple ways to deliver the food, and we already know that you have to have stock and you have to deliver and you have to have this, and we know that. But it sounds like a business now. And the UN now, for the left, now it has pivoted back to let's defend the UN. It's amazing. Now the left has completely lost their brains. They're defending George Soros, the organization who established the world's most biggest human smuggling operandi of children in the world. Now you're defending that. You're defending the globalist compact of immigration, the globalist compact of the environment, the globalist compact of education, that it was going to be promotion by the Vatican. Now you have your political narrative blinds you so much that you will say, UN is right. Wow. It's unbelievable. It gets me to a point that I'm like, I'm done. There's no quite understanding surpassing these guidelines when I have suffered the consequences of this international organizations. And not only that, the PTSD of seeing so many children die, so many women suffer. We discovered in the port of Necoclí, Colombia, just 3 hours before the migrants went to the Darien, OIM giving out birth control pills to women and condoms to men as a prevention method. It's incredible. Incredible. Unbelievable. Instead of stopping it, it's provoking it. And in the Middle East, it's exactly the same. They're sucking the teeth out of this human misery and human necessity. It is exactly the same. Making a business out of human people, making a business out of human lives. Instead of delivering the food, deliver the freaking food. That's your job. When I was walking in a caravan, there was a video that I have right here on my X. If you can go to the thread, you can see the video. A child walking with an adult in the pavement with no shoes. So many of them, I walk with them, could not carry them in a caravan because it is different in Mexico. They will stop you and say, do not help that way. Your job is to report, right? As this child was walking barefoot, 2 to 3 years of age, there was a UNICEF vehicle walking by next to her. And the child, her feet were bleeding and cut because of the hot pavement with no shoes. UNICEF was just seeing that child right there burn their feet. And I went and knocked on the window of them and said, get the hell out. Help. You don't even know if that is his real dad. You're here to do that. You're not here to just watch and investigate and then put a checkpoint and see in that checkpoint, you are going to help and cure people. And then let's go to the other checkpoint, Roger. Okay, Samantha. And then you're in your state-of-the-art vehicle with your air conditioning. That is not your job. You're getting paid to help a human crisis, to help children, and to not let them suffer. United Nations, they're the peacemakers of the world. They're supposed to be there to provide peace, not to make a profit out of food. And this was the reality. A lot of people are going to say, no, GHF is the one. Whoever it is an international organization living out of humanitarian crisis. There's no more to say more than that. What the hell are you going to investigate? Do you need more to investigate? It is such a simple thing. Let me just dig in a little bit more. I think something's wrong right here. No, there's nothing wrong. There's hundreds of pallets of food that they were stuck and not being delivered. What is going on? Why the UN it is not delivering the food to the continuous people that to people that they need. They're in need. It's amazing. Let me just answer some questions right here before I go. 1 hour and 18 minutes. I already extended. It's supposed to be an hour, but I'm going to 1 hour and 30 minutes. That's about it, people. Oscar, how many children that were trafficked across the border belong to the people who they cross with? 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, or half? A little bit more than half. You know, a lot of them, they were with their parents. Yeah, I'm not going to lie about that. But there was a vast majority, a quantity of unaccompanied minors. When you say minors, it's from 17 down. So you have a lot of those between 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. You had a vast majority of those. And I talked to hundreds of those in caravans and in the Darien alone with nobody to be with them. But they were walking with the coyote and the trafficker, a minor. It's a horrible experience. I cannot tell you an exact number because it will be misinformation. But I can tell you that a lot of them, they were with their parents, but a lot of them, they weren't. And the ones that they weren't with their parents, they really hide those kids, hide them. And it was really difficult to see that. You had to go profoundly into search. And it was sometimes difficult, dangerous in some way, because you're trying to find something that is not supposed to be right. and in Mexico, that actually be a threat to the people that they are actually providing and doing a business with that. So it's difficult. Oscar, have you noticed all the pro-Israel pop-ups and ads on YouTube? No, I have not. I haven't noticed that. I don't know why they're coming out, but I do not know if there has been pop-ups of ads in YouTube. I haven't seen it. Apologize. I will investigate and see if there is. There's a question. Gina, in USA, over 10,000 children rescued from trafficking, but don't they go to CPS who trafficked them in the first place? In the matters of returning them back home, the worst that did that job was Barack Obama. He was just deporting them back, putting them on the plane with, several international organizations and going back. And when they arrived, the majority they are of the trafficked children. They were from Guatemala and Mexico. So a lot of these children, I saw them when I went to Guatemala, and I went inside of the international airport where all these international organizations that were located, and they were receiving the children. And it was amazing. There was a lot of them, a lot of minors that they were deported without, vigilance. What are they going to do? They're going to go to child services. A lot of them, they were 16, 17, and they were like, I want to go back home. I want to go to my mom. I just escaped. I don't want to be with my mom anymore. I don't want to be with my dad. I live in an abused home. There was a variety of scenarios of these children. There's some of them, they go willingly, and they are 9, 10 years of age, and they think that it's going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. And they go with an adult that is the neighbor that heard, that told them, man, we're going to move on a caravan, and well, I want to go. No, your mom doesn't let you. I don't care. I want to go. So those kind of situations. Then along the guidelines, when they are in Mexico, then there's the cartel, and they get kidnapped, they get trafficked, they get sold. There's a lot of variety of situations, sadly, that they go through. So I don't know the process correctly from getting them out. Oscar, I'm way behind you here, but I predict that if passage through Panama Canal were to be denied American vessels, they're not going to deny American vessels. They already came to an agreement, and I said this multiple times before. There's no possibility that can happen, that the United States is going to take over the Panamanian Canal. And that was just something that emerged, and it had a moment, and everybody thought, yes, it's going to happen. I don't think that it's going to happen, and it is not happening as we speak. The thing that happened was that they controlled the 2 ports of exit and entrance, and they were controlled by Chinese. So now it is being investigated, and it is being also vigilated by American authorities, also by American people. And also they're talking about the tariff, and also the cost of vessels coming in, and the trade and all this kind of stuff. That is another topic, but taking the control, I don't think so. It's not. I don't believe that it's going to happen. And people got upset when I started saying it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Then the topic started like, we are going to take over Greenland. We're going to take over Canada. We're going to take over the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to take, and I'm like, okay, slow down. These are really important topics that we need to analyze how it can develop if it happens. And people were fast forwarding and moving forward. They were going 75 on a 35, and it was just like, slow down. And and now it's what is happening in Panama. It is completely different scenario of what it was managed first. It was, it was an aggressive agenda, and it was an aggressive approach to it. Then it was also an aggressive approach from the Panamanian government. Then they sat down and talked about it, and and it got resolved. I don't believe that it can happen, and that's what I strongly believe. Oscar, do you think Mallorca's, Antonia, hola, do you think Mallorca's still behind the scenes of all of this as he was? I don't think so, but I don't think so at all. But it is one of the most gut-wrenching situations that we have been going through a lot, and we have documented so much, and we have risked our lives so much to expose this animal. You know, it's really upsetting for us that he's not brought to justice for all the crimes against humanity that he did. So I don't know how the process is going to be, but I hope that in one way, God's justice and Jesus' justice will shine over him. And, you know, with that, we will, you know, have what it needs to be have to expose this guy for what he did. He created the worst humanitarian crisis with Biden in terms of immigration. Let me just, somebody saying, did you get your lungs tested? Yes, we're waiting for results next week. So God bless you and thank you for that. Exactly the same. If it's too personal, please ignore. No, it's okay, Miss Karen. Yes, we had our test and we're waiting for the results next week. And hopefully we're praying to God that everything is good and it's just a hiccup. You know, it's a little hiccup, but let's wait to see what's going on. Thank you so much for joining in. Oscar Blue for my platform. It is a pleasure to talk to you guys. You know, on this Sunday, 7:46 in the evening. I hope that you guys like the new scenario right here behind me. And I hope that you guys like the new area that I put. You know, I would like to just, my presentations over our book that is going to come out in the next month. We're going to do a lot of presentations and speak in public places, speak in elementary schools, junior high schools, rehab centers, and also go to prisons, federal and state prisons, to talk to people about second chances in life. Don't commit the same mistakes that don't commit mistakes that they are going to greatly affect you in life later on. And how can you overcome these mistakes, even with death threats, continuous people that they want to, you know, like from my perspective, people that are trying to take away my life and still continuing with, you know, attacks. We're going to start doing these presentations in these places. Hopefully we will do a job that I love to do, that is, you know, try to help kids not take bad decisions and not to make bad decisions in their lives. And, you know, we have a lot of things that we are going to expose. I have some evidence right there on the bottom from all the things that I have gathered, you know, in my travels around the globe. So God bless you guys. Thank you so much. I will post whenever the book is on sale. I think it's going to be $15 or $20. The book, I think it's really affordable. We made it really affordable for people. You know, it's we need to put it out there for people that want to read it. It's going to be also in audio if you guys want to buy it on Amazon in the platform, and also is going to be physical. We're going to sell it physical also, and with a copy and all this kind of stuff. So God bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining in. Stay safe. Thank you. God bless you. Buy me a coffee. It is right there. People want to contribute to my independent reporting and travel fund. It is right there. Hope that this information has helped you. And like we always say, God's plan, it is our mission. Stay safe, everyone.